Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order, this meeting of September the 7th. And the first thing that we need to look at is the approval of the minutes from our meeting of July the 5th, 2022. And I'm assuming you've all had a chance to glance at it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as submitted.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor state aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. And our agenda today, we will discuss and consider the COA for the property located at 522 East Main, COA number 2022-004.
Yes, ma'am. COA 2022-004 for Chris and Danielle at 522 East Main Street are requesting an 8-foot by 12-foot by 8-foot prefab storage shed to be built on the back of the property. We took pictures from the front right-of-way. This is one of those unfortunate properties that has right-of-way access on the front and the back. So staff didn't provide the right-of-way viewpoint from the back because typically we just look at it from the front elevation. But the address at 522, or the property at 522, is listed as built in 1905 and is contributing to the Stern-Huya Historic District. Staff finds that city ordinance criterion D, J, and K apply to this request. And before anyone can ask, just a reminder, Hlpc does not look at setback requirements and other zoning issues besides historic preservation. So when you are looking at this, and go through these right here, there's the pictures on the screen. Approximately what you would be able to see in that bottom photo. And then there are kind of the dimensions. You are not considering whether or not that new building is too close or too far from the adjacent building in terms of setback requirements. That is something that's handled in the inspections office. So what you are considering is it appropriate for this building to be placed on this property? So Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions. These are the ones, all these pictures are the ones that were in your packet. I'll just leave it right there on that one.
I'd like to say something about the positioning. We've had this before where, usually the backyard or the side yard isn't visible to someone just driving by, but many times because of alleyways or like, the main street behind it, they are. But we've also got to remember that someone might plant a row of yew trees or something. And so, I hate to say if it's in their backyard yet you can see it from another location. That person might plant a large hedge, and it's just something I think we should always remember, that the person could do something like that, when we're considering things like this.
No, absolutely, Chairman. And that's the reason staff didn't include pictures from Pillar Street, because it's almost unfair to say your entire property is visible from the public right-of-way,
Right.
therefore it needs greater scrutiny than one that lives on Mound
Exactly.
Street and only the front is visible.
Yes.
So essentially, this is what,
This is the main.
this is the main, this is the character-defining
Right.
facade.
Yes.
And that is typically not always, but that is typically what you're looking at and considering is, does this detract or interfere with the historic integrity of this property?
All right, do we have some questions? Comments?
Is this the house that was all yellow?
Yes.
Yes,
Kind
ma'am.
of run down?
Joe Carlson's old house.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
wanted, because I'm going, okay, I'm trying to.
Yeah.
This is the property that received
Yeah,
the
you
historic
can see it from
restoration
front
grant
end.
last year,
Yeah.
redid the painting.
Yeah.
At one time, it was a
Lovely
boarding
job.
house.
Yeah.
My old friend Marvis Bailey said when she first married, she lived there. That was a long time ago. Marvis has been gone a while.
I just appreciate the detailed information provided about what the building was, because from the first drawings, I was scratching my head, and so that was very nice. And there's a lot of traffic on that road. I tried to drive down and see how much I could see, and I'm sorry, there's people behind me. I couldn't see much of anything. So, I'll be wild and make a motion.
Thank you. Do.
I'll make a motion that we approve COA 2022-004, that it meets criterions D, J, and K of the historic preservation guidelines.
Well, I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor state aye, please. Aye. Opposed? All right. People have stuff. They've got to have buildings for stuff.
You know, preservation commissions of, Perky could probably tell me exactly when, but probably 15 years ago, would not have had as easy a time approving something as this as we do today. But times change, and that's kind of
Right.
the point, and we have to adapt.
And if we don't adapt, we've got to keep buildings viable for modern families. So I'm not saying we should just be pushovers, but
Can
the
also
building
easily
is what's
removed.
important.
And what Dr. Beisel just said is
Yeah.
really the key thing, and we tried not to influence you before, but since you've already made your motion
Yes, and I
approved,
made that statement, and I probably shouldn't have.
This is
should I?
something, no, this is,
He's
this is something
shaking
that is very easily picked up and removed, and there's no evidence that it was
Right,
over there. It
right,
does
and
not-
that's one of the key
it does
things,
zero
that it's
damage to the-
removable and
to the
doesn't
building.
hurt anything, yes.
Correct.
But do forgive me for my statement, I guess I remembered that other incident where an alley ran past someone's backyard, and I should have kept my mouth shut.
I remember making a comment about permeability once, and it was out of our purview.
So forgive me, folks, just mark it off, okay? I never said those words. Right? Okay, next on our agenda. Oh, we're considering something. What are we considering? Oh, yes. We're reviewing the status of demolition by neglect.
So staff just wanted to bring you kind of an update. You know, several meetings back, we made a presentation, asked for your blessing to proceed with using demolition by neglect again, often referred to as DBN. We made a presentation to council. Council said yes and proceed, and this is where we are today. The reason we didn't include the addresses is that a lot of them are working in progress and they've already abated it, or they're well on their way to abating the issue, and so we didn't want to have something out there saying, your property at 123 East Main was in violation, and, you know, yet they fixed it. So that's the reason we skipped the address and listed the historic district. The ones that you're probably most concerned with are the two that are condemned, that are towards the top. Those are ones that have been posted as condemned by code enforcement. So code enforcement is proceeding not with the demolition, but with the condemnation of those two properties. And we've been very fortunate over the years to have a very good working relationship with code enforcement. Angela Sal is working hand in hand with myself and Jessica Sal, no relation, but Jessica and Angela are working very close together along with myself. So should they come back and say, yes, staff, this is gone, I will need a report from them on the integrity of it, and they understand that. Code enforcement, obviously, those are just ones that were rubbish, junk, unsecured, weeded lot. So kind of skip down, final notice. If you see a final notice, those are all in Zion Hill, all the same property owner.
All of them? The entire list
Those
of
four,
Zion
no,
Hill?
just the four that say in progress, or excuse me, final notice.
Okay.
Those four that say final notice are the same property owner.
Are they absentee landlords, or, I can't remember.
They are not owner occupied.
Okay.
So at the next meeting? So at the next meeting, if these violations are not abated or progress made towards abating them, you will see individual cases where staff will be asking you to find that they are in violation of demolition by neglect. And if that is the case, and you make that ruling, we will turn those over to code enforcement, who will start issuing citations. So in the past, the process is that our office would be issuing those citations. It is much cleaner because code enforcement does that on a regular basis, and they know the process, and there's no hiccups once it goes to municipal court, and so we've decided to run it through that way. But you see a lot of these on here, work in progress. The bottom one, update since this was printed, says second notice. I talked with an owner's representative, so it was not the owner. One of the owners is on hospice care, and their spouse is with them, so they are not even at the house. But a friend of the family is picking up the mail, saw the notice, gave me a call, and kind of gave me an update that they are most likely going to be selling the property. And I said, I'm sorry to hear that, but I can't stop this until you actually have it for sale or you start the work to fix the problems. They understand that. Gave them a little bit more of a grace period, which was kind of the feeling that the HLPC gave was don't hammer them, work with them. And so I said, give me an update every week to 2 weeks. And as long as you're getting towards that end, we'll hold off. So that one
Good.
is not in a final notice state because we are trying to work with them to get the problems fixed.
That, yeah.
That's that house that we were discussing that
Yeah.
people
their-
used to
their
live
health
across
is
from, and they were
promoted.
elderly, they didn't have the money to do it. We had talked about maybe getting a charitable organization to help. So I really.
Yes,
do
that is that one.
I know those, and I feel bad.
The
about it.
porch keeps sagging.
Yeah, it's gotten worse. I mean, come on, that's, how many years has been on
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
3 years.
In 2010, when we were actively doing demolition by neglect, this was the last case that was active when we were told to
It's been
stop.
there that long.
Yeah, it's been that way for a long time.
I
'Cause
drive
Richard
by it all
Baker
the
told
time.
me. Because he lives there too, I mean, across the street.
Who stopped it in 2010? The city council?
City administration.
City- Okay.
That is sad.
It's a sad situation.
Is it the wife or the husband that's on hospice? You don't know?
That's not.
I know,
our
I'm
discussion
sorry,
at this
that was a
meeting today.
personal
They were
question.
both in bad shape
That was a
when I
personal
met 'em.
question. Sorry. Okay, all right. Well, do we need to discuss
That's just-
demolition by neglect
No, ma'am, that was,
anymore?
it was just an update.
Okay, thank you. And next, we will review the status of historic restoration grant projects in the coming HRG cycle.
And so this item, along with the next one, there's no action needed. This is simply bringing you up to speed on where we've been. If it's red, it says default. That means one of them sold the property, another one said, we're simply not gonna do it. So the green ones have been completed. 3 of these, since this was printed and distributed to you in your board packet, have requested an extension, and I fully expect that those will be approved just based on your history. But there's lots of other ones that are out there. Jessica does an excellent job of making sure that they get their 30-day notice, 60-day notice, 90-day notice. So anybody who says, well, I didn't know that this was going to expire, is lying. Because when they get their award letter, we give them a date, and then we give them 3 notices prior to it ending. So you get 4 separate letters saying, here's your date that you have to complete it or request an extension. So once again, Chairman, this is just an update. Historic restoration grant letters have gone out. Chairman, you probably received 3 of them.
I did.
Or one of them with 3 copies in the same envelope. So all property owners in our 5 historic districts received letters with explanation of the historic restoration grant process. So that it's active right now, and grants are due October 15th. We will bring a recommendation to you, similar to what you see on the screen, just not funded, unfunded, at the November meeting for you to consider, and then you make a recommendation, and then staff carries that to council for final approval.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Is these funds, I didn't do the math, so the total available was that, like, when we awarded at 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And then we didn't award the 5,287, is that, so that would get added back into the pot with
Right, so
the
anything
defaulted?
that is either not awarded or defaulted goes back in.
Okay,
To make it an easier explanation, if you look at the 2 that are red, the one is 1,910, the other one is 5,109. Both of those sums go back into the historic restoration grant account to be redistributed later.
okay.
And any other funds that are not completed, same thing happens.
Okay. Now we need to look at the form for making motions. And of course, the thing that it's so easy to leave out is that we should state the guidelines or standards, the reason that, what your motion is based upon.
Yes, Chairman, that is exactly correct. And you have 4 options anytime you're reviewing a case. You can make a motion to approve, approve with modifications, table, or deny. And each of those, really, the approve with modifications and the deny, all really need to have a reason. And the reason is not, it's pretty, it's ugly, I don't like it, that's too subjective. There's nothing to appeal it on, and it's also, there's nothing for the owner to understand why you approved. So had you approved that one COA that we had this evening, simply that I approve the storage building because I think it looks good, or conversely, if you said, I deny this building because I don't think it fits well, the property owner has nothing to understand, well, what doesn't fit? How do I get something in this place? Or if the property owner had said, I'm gonna appeal this to city council has nothing to review besides an opinion. And so when you list, in that first example, I move we approve application COA 2022-14, based on a finding that ordinance section ABC 123 have been met and is supported by design guidelines. Now, you don't have to list design guidelines or Secretary of the Interior standards. The only thing that you do need to list is city ordinance criteria A, B, C, D. And that is what we list at the bottom of every COA when we say, these are the standards that apply. That does not mean we're saying these standards are met. It's these are the standards that apply to this specific case. There are some exceptions when you get into sign request. Secretary of the Interior standards or our city ordinance don't really lend themselves to approving or denying signs. So in that case, we go to our design guidelines, because our design guidelines, one of the few good things in our design guidelines is the signage part. And so it's very easy to say, oh, yes, this meets the design guidelines for signs. So in that case, you would just say, I move that we approve the application based on a finding that it meets design guidelines for signage, as an example. So this, some of you who've been on Hlpc for several cycles have seen this in the past. We just kind of dusted it off because we forgot that it was even there, and thought, probably hand this back out to everybody, just to keep handy, so that if you're wondering how to make a motion, all you have to do is fill in the blanks, and we give you all the options. So, Chairman, are there any questions?
Are there any questions? I don't think so.
That is all I have.
Okay. I believe
Can
we
I
are
ask about
adjourned.
this, since
Oh.
we got handed this?
I don't even know what you were handed.
Your calendar?
Oh, calendar. Yes, yes.
You have September 4th, which is Labor Day. Can we just make
Oh.
sure
If
we're not
it's-
meeting on Labor Day?
If it's on a holiday, I promise you we will not meet, because we
Yeah.
will not be here.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, hey, we'll be here, but you won't be here. Yeah,
So
Yeah.
typically,
so,
this is an odd one because it's Wednesday and it's the first Wednesday of the month. Historically, if we don't meet the first Monday of the month, we meet anybody know?
The second Wednesday.
Winter chicken dinner, second Wednesday of the month. It just happened that there was not a meeting the first Wednesday of the month this month, so we took the slot.
Absolutely.
But typically, there's a standing meeting the first Wednesday of the month, so we get kicked to the second Wednesday.
And I do apologize for my opinion, but this board is knowledgeable, and I doubt they would be swayed by anything I said.
It is not a problem.
I'm not that influential.
And I think y'all met Cecilia?
yes.
Just making sure. Jessica's still training her to transition out so that Jessica can stay at the office and do other work while Cece does this.
You have to come and babysit us.
Mr. Chairman, that's all for our agenda.
We're a rowdy bunch. We are adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
Brian, can I ask you about a couple COA things?
Yes.
So,